Hello, my name's John, this is Lieutenant Titus, and you're watching Wargames, Models, and Other Hobbies. Hello and welcome back. In a previous video, I built Lieutenant Titus, the Warhammer Commemorative Series model, and I didn't stick all of it together because I want to make a few adaptations to this model and adjust a few things. So in this video, that's what I'm going to be doing. What you will notice with this one, the head has been clipped in a way that it can be put in or out. I'll be putting a magnet into this to hold the head, and then I have the option of adding the helmeted head to this. What I'm also thinking about is adjusting the base maybe. But the first thing I'm going to do is sort out this shoulder pad on this side, which I'm going to add this Ultramarine shoulder pad, which I got from the Deathwatch Kill Team kit. So let's get started. Now I haven't glued all of this together, so I can carefully take the backpack off and then take this shoulder pad off. And what I'm going to need to do is clip this down slightly so this pad will fit in place. So I have my clippers. And what I'm going to do is just take that piece off and put this roughly in place. So that's going to work nicely there. And then let's get some glue and put it on. Apologies if you can hear any traffic in the background. I know I often say that. I never quite know if it translates onto camera, and by the time I get to editing I always forget to even check to see if it is coming through. But so there is, let's get that in focus, an Ultramarine shoulder pad in place. I'm just going to push back the backpack on. Let's be patient and wait for this glue to dry as well. So let's just put that in place. I'm going to run a little bit of glue just on the inside there. So I'm going to let that dry. As you may have seen in some of my other videos, occasionally I'm quite impatient when it comes to glue. So I want to make sure that now sets. Now the base, I did talk about when I was making this, if maybe making quite a few bases, but I think I'm only going to make one scenic base for this one. And the model itself comes on a little plastic rock that he's leaping across. What I'm going to try and do is adapt this Terminator Captain base, which has a Screamer Killer on. So I'm going to actually chop most of the Screamer Killer off and the rest of the base, so it stays on a 40mm base. But I just want to build up the model a little bit just to give it a bit more grandeur and everything. So I'm going to use my clippers to start working to take off this Screamer Killer head. I do have, there we go, another head that I can put onto this of a Screamer Killer, but I might put a different Tyranid altogether. But I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking where I want to clip things off. I think I will actually take the whole Screamer Killer off. So I'm going to cut either this ribcage or back section off. Try and trim it in line with the rocks, but I can rebuild this with milliput. Not with milliput, with green stuff. I do have some milliput though, I could use some milliput. But I might do some re-sculpting of detail. Whoa, that was a safety squint needed for that one. I've got no idea where that went. Hey ho. That was another one. I've got to be careful with this. This is... Okay, yeah, no, I'm stopping there now. That's... So anyway, that is now the base as I want it to be. And I'm thinking, I do have a spare Carnifex head I could put on, but I don't think I want to do that. I think I'm going to go quite simply with this Tyranid head that was in the Marnius Calgar kit, which I'm going to put in place. But I'm going to trim off a little bit more of this, tidy up the edges. So let me get my scalpel to tidy up some of the edges as I work my way around. Now I could spend some time sculpting a lot of this detail, but actually I think if you've got a bit of a base, you might as well kind of use these bits to help with the model itself. So I'm going to use the hole on the bottom of the base to put that in. So I'm going to put that like that. And what I'm actually thinking of doing might make this a bit of a swampy base, so this is going to have an edge to it. So I'm going to want the Tyranid head, I think, sitting something like this. I might add that after. Let's just have a look what I'm thinking of doing. Let's get this drill bit to push out Titus from the original base. So there's Titus there. What I'm thinking of doing is just dropping this right in front of you now. Just trimming and cutting this. Sorry, I'm off camera there. Trimming and cutting this and fitting it on there. I just want to give it more of a dynamic base, a larger base for this. So what I'm going to do, careful with the safety squints, take these off. And likewise with this one. There we go. Let's smooth that off a little bit. Oh, I should have learned from one of my previous videos where I cut my thumb. Don't draw it out on my thumb. And I'm thinking of sticking this onto there. Basically where the foothole is there, sticking this on like that. I think that's going to work perfectly. Let's do that. I'm doing this without much planning. I've had a few ideas and everything, but just kind of seeing where this one goes. I know in the previous video, which I will leave a link to, I did talk about maybe making alternate bases and so on, but I kind of like the idea of just sticking with one scenic base that I can really work on quite nicely. So what I will do is just run some of this glue along the back here. It's quite nice, especially with these commemorative models, to personalise them, I think. So that's why I've gone for that Ultramarines shoulder pad. He's jumping over a larger bit of rubble. Let's have a little look and see where. So I know I said maybe I'd do it swampy. Let's zoom in a little bit. I know I said I could do swamp along there, but I don't know. Let's have a look. I mean, just having that It's always... No, I think the Carnifex head is too big. Quite like the idea of that sitting on a flat surface. Does it go? Or maybe that sits in the swampy water. Maybe I'll trim a little bit more of this off. Okay, and I've stuck him down now onto here, so what I'm going to do is trim a bit more of this base off, like that. Let's put that back in. Yeah, that's... Yeah, okay. Whoop, as I drop this everywhere. Right, what I'm going to do, let me glue that down in places where so just around the edge here. I'm going to run that glue. I mean, already I quite like this character on the higher base. I don't have an Ultramarines army, so this is a one-off model. I'll just put some glue in to where the peg's gone into the base. So that's going to now start going off. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to sculpt the base and add this detail in another video. What I'm going to do for the rest of this video is get a magnet into the head. So I have here some 2mm magnets. So there are a little stack of 2mm magnets. And what I'm going to want to do, where this head slots in, I'm going to put some green stuff into that hole and then push a magnet in, and then the head itself I'm going to drill and put a magnet in as well. Now the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to start with the head itself. So I'm going to carefully, let's zoom out a small amount, cut off the bottom peg from this head. There we go. So I now no longer have that peg at all. If I show you the helmeted version, there you can see the peg. What I'm now going to do is, with this drill bit, is manually drill into the bottom of this head. And I've got to be careful because I don't want to damage the model itself. So I'm not using a drill, I'm just rolling the drill bit in my hand. Okay, that has made a big enough hole there for me to stick in one of these magnets. Now, what I'm going to do, rather than just using glue, got some green stuff here, I'm going to create a little green stuff plug that's going to go into the hole I've just drilled, and I'm going to push that magnet into that hole. I'm then going to put some green stuff into this hole here, and I'm going to put another magnet on the one that's on the head and push it into there. So they're going to be connected, and then I'm going to leave that to set. So let's just mix this green stuff first. It's actually quite pale, so I'm going to get a little bit more of the blue side, which is, to the best of my knowledge, is the hardener. So hopefully that'll speed up the process slightly. Okay, so there we have more green stuff than we need, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to be able to add it to the base. So I'm just going to get a bit first, and I'm going to stick it down into the hole where the head sits, and because there's a cavity inside this, it's going to end up going into that cavity anyway, so I can put quite a bit of green stuff in there, and it's just going to fill up Titus's body. Which I don't mind. So there we have the green stuff in there. I'm going to get a small amount of green stuff and put it in the head just there. Just going to hold on to that little bit just in case it goes wrong at the moment. I'm going to use my scalpel to divide off two magnets. Let's just put the other ones away so I don't lose them. And once this is all dry, I can do the same to the helmeted head. What I want to do is push that into the hole like that. I'm going to use my sculpting tool just to tidy up the bit that's come out of this. Now, the green stuff isn't necessarily going to hold these magnets in place, but when it's gone off, when I pull the head off from the body, it'll leave a nice clean hole, which I can then put glue into and glue the head in. So I'm now going to push that magnet in. So I now have his head in place. I'm not going to touch that now. As much as I want to, I'm going to leave it. And what I am going to do with this last little bit of green stuff, I'm just going to fill this gap along here. So I'm just going to roll up the green stuff and stick it along the edge like that, and with this sculpting tool and my finger, let's start with my finger, that's easier, just going to push that in place. And I'm going to grab a different sculpting tool. I'm going to go for my little spoon there. Let's roll that a little bit with the neck of the tool. And the benefit with the green stuff is I can cut it and sand it later on, carve it to a shape that I want, so I can keep it kind of all in line with the base. But I'm going to do a little bit of sculpting and just getting it looking how I want it for now. There we go. Oh, a little bit too tough on those bits. Okay, so there's that little bit filled. I'm just going to run my finger around the edge to do a little bit more smoothing. There we go. Okay, so now I've got Titus on his new larger scenic base. Obviously I've got to do all of the sculpting on this bit here, and I've got this head that I want to place on it as well. I'm going to do that in the next video. So if you've got any suggestions for where I go with this model, please drop it in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video, being part 1 of 2 parts. Join me in the next video when I sculpt the rest of this base. But for now, all I can say is thank you so much for tuning in. My name's John, and you've been watching War Games, Models, and Other Hobbies.